The young lad with the deep voice, Rick Astley, soared through the late 80s with his song Never Gonna Give You Up, which unbeknownst to him would later be used as the soundtrack for one of the greatest internet memes of all time, known as rickrolling. What many may not have realized is that whilst we were dodging being rickrolled, Rick himself was not too fond of his song being used in such a way. Needless to say, his disdain didn't halt all the memes, influx of parodies, and the phenomenon that surely go down as one of the greatest memes to ever exist. One thing about the internet, it will never be defeated. Since the birth of the www domain, the World Wide Web has become sort of a world of its own, having the power to make or break anyone thanks to its global reach. Whether it be pushing randoms into the spotlight that some may argue don't deserve. One thing for sure, two things for certain. The internet can make anything go viral for absolutely no reason whatsoever. When Rick Astley stepped onto the scene in the 80s, lending his drumming skills to FBI, a soul band popular in their local area of London, he'd upgrade from drummer to lead vocalist when the group's original lead vocalist stepped down. Record producer Pete Waterman soon recognized Rick's unique talent and offered to show him the ropes of the recording process. Releasing his first single, When You Gonna, a collaboration with Lisa Fabian intended to be a club banger. The single went on to do positively well with little to no promotion, reaching number 17 in the Netherlands. This was more than great for Rick and his now production home base, Stock Aitken Waterman, who honestly didn't know what to do with this babyface singer. Alas, the next hit would turn out to be his biggest hit to date, and one of the biggest hits to come out of the UK in history. Amid recording Never Gonna Give You Up on New Year's Day, Rick never suspected the global reach and success it would have on the planet. Released in July of the same year, his solo debut was distributed. Originally, Stock Aitken Waterman didn't think the tune had enough juice to be a global chart topper. Obviously, they couldn't have been more wrong. Not only did Never Gonna Give You Up go on to obtain the #1 position on numerous charts, it also was the topic of conversation, TV shows, and all else in between. On top of the UK charts is where it resided for 5 weeks and went on to become 1987's biggest selling single. Countries including the US, West Germany, and Australia also couldn't get enough, and it held the #1 spot in over 24 countries, winning Best British Single at the 1988 Brit Awards. The song was massive and being exploited everywhere and anywhere. Contrary to what you may have believed, yes, Rick Astley has more songs. A lot more, actually, although those singles are nowhere near as huge as the global reach Never Gonna Give You Up was able to have. Dropping the album Whenever You Need Somebody in November of 1987, not to anyone's surprise, it climbed its way to the first spot on the Australian and UK charts, and the 10th in the States, becoming 4 times certified platinum in the UK and Canada, and 2 times platinum in the US. That year, Rick became the top-selling British act of the year, with Whenever You Need Somebody selling over 15 million copies worldwide. More singles and covers occupied Rick's time throughout the years, his song Together Forever attempting to do what Never Gonna Give You Up did, and actually succeeding, reaching #2 over in the UK. Nevertheless, it was even more successful in the US, making this his second, yet last chart topper. While he was on a high enjoying the accolades of his big hits, the UK media, on the other hand, was utilizing their time taking shots at Rick, calling him a puppet to his production team, which some think hurt the sales in his latter releases. 1990 rolled around and Rick decided to hang up his pop bops and ballads in favor of a more soulful sound. Free, his now soul-filled album, featured collabs with artists like Elton John and went on to do moderately well. With that being said, just a few years later, Rick decided to hang up his life as a musician altogether, retiring at just the age of 27 to focus on family life. That and the business side of, well, the business, taking a toll on his joy for his craft, something that we hear often and is all too familiar within this type of career path. Finding his footing back in the music side of things, he retired his retirement in the year 2000, going on tour for the first time in 14 years in 2004. But just 4 years later, Rick low-key wished he'd unretire his retirement. The birth and boom of an internet phenomenon known as rickrolling, or being rickrolled, sought out its victims and left no mercy, Rick Astley included. While many of us were exposed to the internet's relentless rickrolling, many still don't quite understand how and why this whole fiasco started, or even how it began in the first place. Although the trend took flight in 2008, it had actually originated 2 years prior in 2006 from everyone's favorite Y2K troll site, 4chan. After an anonymous user posted an image of a duck, yes, a duck, on wheels in one of 4chan's many threads, the phrase duck rolling came about and other users on the platform took heed, wanting to get in on the action. And why, you ask? The world may never know. The image would be connected to a hyperlink that users would click on, being redirected to this image of a duck on wheels. Taking that same formula in the year 2007, when everyone's favorite Rockstar production game franchise, Grand Theft Auto, had newly released trailers to the game's 6th installment. The anticipation for its trailers were sky high, and Rockstar's website, where they had originally posted the trailer, had crashed harder than Stevie Wonder driving a speedboat, making fans figure out other ways to watch the release, and quick. This is when people, one user in particular credited for birthing the phenomenon on May 15, 2007, a then 19-year-old YouTube user named Sean Cotter, going by the handle Cotter548, began posting the game's trailers to other sites to further help out their fellow game enthusiasts. But of course, the internet can never just be nice without someone partaking in some foolishness. A 4chan user had posted a link to Rick's Never Gonna Give You Up, claiming to be the trailer for GTA, which many fell for, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. Like clockwork, others began using this method, posting links with the notion of being one thing and it leading to Never Gonna Give You Up, which continued to expand, ultimately replacing duck rolling with the new profound rickrolling. According to Survey USA, more than 18 million Americans were rickrolled during this time. YouTube themselves got in on the fun during April Fools in 2008, creating hyperlinks on its homepage that ended up taking users to the music video. When the New York Mets baseball team asked fans via the interweb which song they should use for their rallying song, Never Gonna Give You Up received a massive amount of votes, driven by 4chan itself. At the 2008 Europe Music Awards, Rick won the award for Best Act Ever, even though he wasn't originally nominated. However, thanks to his OG and newer fans who'd pushed an online petition for his nomination, Rick was able to receive the award. Over a decade had passed since the release of Rick Astley's biggest hit, and it re-emerges after a 4chan user takes his song and music video and attaches it to a link meant for GTA players to view. What did Rick himself think about all of this? Well, Rick wasn't so thrilled about his newfound fame. He discovered rickrolling by ironically being rickrolled himself by a friend of his while out on vacation soaking up the Italian sun rays. Deeming the interaction weird, a now mature Rick couldn't wrap his head around why this video of a thin 21-year-old babyface Rick had suddenly gone so viral once again all these years later. Weird, yet intrigued. Despite not performing for quite some time by that point, we'd witnessed the largest rickroll to date when Rick surprisingly showed up at the Macy's annual Thanksgiving Day parade, lip-singing along to his smash hit while standing on top of Cartoon Network's Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends float after the network asked him to perform for a pretty penny. Insisting on not wanting to capitalize off of the rickroll meme, Rick refused to re-record or remix the song, but has no problem getting that commercial coin after appearing in a AAA insurance commercial, recreating scenes of the music video. It's clear he still finds the whole thing bizarre yet hilarious. Rick may be done talking about that memorable time in internet history, but Rick, no surprise to anyone, is still being rickrolled to this very day. Have you ever been rickrolled? Let us know your experience in the comments and stay tuned for more true celebrity stories.